morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning for this demo of ChatGPT. I'm Mike Farlow. I'm the CEO of ComTech, and Rafe Martin's going to be helping me out. He is our CRO, and in the background, he'll probably jump in toward the end, is Hunter Farlow. He's our marketing manager. So we found that this topic stretched across lots of different areas in our business, and we wanted to give you different perspective from different ways. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you at the very beginning, and we don't want this to be a technical demonstration by any means. We want it to be very practical for you. But I wanted to show you one way that we are already using artificial intelligence here to protect our clients that have the cyber armor, advanced cybersecurity, are being monitored constantly for attacks, and they are going on consistently. You can see here, this is actually a live video that I shot yesterday, and you can see attacks coming in from China, from Russia, etc. And what this is, the way it links in with artificial intelligence, is this data is being collected with thousands, literally thousands of lines of logs or logging that's coming in from firewalls, from servers, from Office 365. And all of this is being digested into a dashboard that takes these thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of events every day and sorts through them and figures out what real threats look like. And this is just a brief example here. We actually monitor a lot more than that. Here's a little bit bigger view of the dashboard, but there's no way a person could do that. And the really interesting part about the AI analysis of our tools is it learns. So it can identify patterns of attack. So if something is attacking one client and it sees the same thing at another client, it can create alerts and formulate reports for us and create service tickets automatically. I just wanted to show you one of the really cool ways that we're already using this for you. But all that happens on the back end and doesn't affect you in any way other than to keep you safe. So what I want to do is transfer this over to Rafe Martin, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about what AI actually is and give you some practical examples you guys can actually use. So Rafe, welcome to the demo, and the floor is yours, sir.
All right, thanks, Mike. That is cool stuff, and like Mike mentioned, with us using artificial intelligence now to help with cybersecurity, it is learning versus the way things were done years ago, where it was looking for specific patterns. This new way is actually learning as it goes. So really cool stuff there. Excuse me. So let's get into AI. That's all the rage now. I'm sure everyone's heard the term AI, artificial intelligence. We're going to look at two applications today called ChatGPT and DALL-E, which are all over the news lately. So but real quick, what is AI? It is kind of in the name. It's software that is designed to mimic how the human brain works. And it does that by absorbing lots of information from the internet and other sources and trying to make sense of that and actually be able to have a conversation with you. So just real quick, how we got to this point, it's absolutely an evolution of programming. And we've been through, decades of computers being around and programming. So, from the 70s, it was pretty simple stuff, step-by-step type of programming. And then in the 80s and 90s, we moved into more object-oriented coding where, it's learning now how to react to things. The best example of that would be like a video game controller. It's got 5 buttons and a joystick. The game has no idea what you're going to press on next. So that code had to be reactive in terms of responding to the user's input, which could be anything. And also, if you think about a web page, you land on a web page, it has no idea what you're going to click on next. So that's kind of the next evolution. And then where we are today with this AI coding, it's become a generative language, and it does that through learning and consuming information. And the learning part is actually done through people that are sitting there and doing training. So it's going to give people examples, and they're going to respond, yes, this was right, or you totally got it wrong. So that's where you get into this machine learning and deep learning and training. So the way this AI tries to work now is predicting what's going to happen next, or what might be said next. So if you're in, and it's context based. So if you're in the context of a nursery rhyme, for example, and I said the cow jumped over you're probably going to say moon next, but that's a learned neural connection. So the way this all works with current AI, which is called generative AI, it forms neural connections. These are some examples of the type of neural connections that the programs use. Not to geek out, but the best way to describe it is, let's say you have a child that touches a hot stove. Well, they just made a neural connection that, hey, touching that stove is bad. It hurts. So let's say that they decide to touch it again, and it's a cold stove. Oh, guess what? Now their neural connection's confused. So they're probably going to touch it a few more times just to be sure it is actually hot, which strengthens that neural connection. So this AI software works in that same type of manner. It's learning and remembering as it trains itself. So ChatGPT is the new AI chat program by OpenAI. So if you look at the bottom of the screen here, there's a link to go. I'm sure everyone's going to want to go try it after this webinar. But the GPT, in case you're wondering, stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. That sounds like a mouthful, but again, it's just a type of neural network that's used in language processing. So I know there's been, if you follow the news and YouTube and all that, everyone thinks, oh my gosh, what's next? They're gonna plug this into a robot and take my job and all sorts of things like that. So it is not the Terminator yet. Although, Mike, you can chime in. I think one day it could be the Terminator. We're just not there at this point. So
it could be, yes, not quite self-aware yet, but
yeah.
we can see a future where that could happen.
Yeah. So when they map out the generations of AI, the final one is when an AI actually becomes self-aware. So then we're in a 2001 Space Odyssey situation at that point. So looking at the adoption rate of ChatGPT, you'll see this graph here. Just for example, Netflix took 3.5 years to reach 1 million users, and you contrast that all the way at the bottom. If you look at ChatGPT, it had 1 million users in the first 5 days, which is just incredible. So it's definitely caught on very, very quickly. Let's look at how you get to ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, again, is through OpenAI. So don't do this now, of course, but here's how you do it. So go to openai.com, and you'll see at the top of the screen on the right, there's a try button. So you can go there and register for an account.
Rafe, I just wanted to pause for a second here. We had a couple of questions. Folks were asking if this was going to be recorded. We are recording it, and all attendees will receive a copy of the recording.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, and by the way, feel free to post your questions as we're going along. If we have time at the end, we'll get to as many of those as we can. So yeah, go ahead and post away. All right, so how can AI help your business? Here are a few ideas, and you're going to see in just a moment how we're using it here. But it's a generative output. So think of it not like you would think of Googling something, but think of it as, hey, I need it to create something new for me. So we'll show you in just a moment. But some uses of it: sales and marketing, content creation. It does a great job translating things to other languages. And then on the DALL-E side, so DALL-E is an image AI program. We'll look at that here as well. That is an application that generates pictures for you based on the text input that you give it. So I think the biggest and best use for us and most people right now is to think of ChatGPT as your new writing assistant. So we're going to dive into a kind of a screen demo here. When you create your account at ChatGPT and log in, you're presented with the screen that looks like this. So the box at the bottom is the prompt where you're going to type in your request. And so this thing is conversational. So when you're in a session like this, it's going to remember everything that's been said prior to every request. So if you remember, I said it's context based. So you can start to have a conversation with this thing to kind of set up the context, if you will. And we'll show you here with some examples. So this is the interface, and then we've got some example input and output here. So here's an example where we asked ChatGPT, hey, can you help me write a quick sales letter? I want the recipient to take action and book a 12-minute discovery call. And we were sending them a stopwatch along with that because time and response time is one of the biggest complaints we hear. So you'll see on the screen here, this is what it spit out as a first response. Pretty good letter. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can skim over that and get the idea. Hey, it's written very well. Some of the people in academia are amazed at how grammatically correct and punctuation and just sentence structure and all that ChatGPT is perfect. I mean, or near perfect in the way it writes. So we took that response and said, hey, can you in that letter, can you include something that refers to timing their current provider using the stopwatch? Because we're trying to push the point that we're quick to respond. So it wrote another version. You'll see that it spit the letter out again here, but in this part that's circled, it said, hey, that's not all. Next time your current MSP calls, use this stopwatch to time them. If they don't give you a response within 15 minutes, give us a call here at ComTech. So then we wanted yet another revision. So can you write it again? But this time, can you emphasize that time is our only non-renewable resource? So here we are on the third version of this letter. So we've got it about where we want it now. And it added that paragraph at the beginning. So again, it's a conversation. I didn't have to tell it to write the whole thing every time. It knew what it had done in the prior steps. So it's just appending to what we'd already established as the context for this session.
And Rafe, you mentioned it a moment ago, but everyone should really take notice as to how well written these things are from grammatical standpoint, punctuation, because it's not only important internally to your business, but I always think of things from a security standpoint. The hackers and the foreign folks that are trying to send phishing emails and everything to your people, expect them to get a lot better. They're already pretty darn good and persuasive. Now they're going to have perfect grammar. You're not going to have the misspellings. They're using these tools also. These are tools. They're not good. They're not evil, but they're tools, and the bad guys have access to this too. So your people need to be extra careful for the phishing emails that are going to be showing up very, very soon, because you won't be able to tell that they're not real. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I imagine, Mike, you can probably have some insight on this. The tools we use are going to evolve as well to hopefully be able to detect in different ways, because now the grammar and all that's going to be near perfect. So our tools are going to have to evolve with this to keep people safe, because looking at poorly written email is no longer going to be a dead giveaway.
Correct. And we're already on it. Our tools already use AI, so we're going to use AI to try to beat AI.
Yeah.
So.
That's funny. All right, another example of what ChatGPT can do, it can write Excel formulas for you. So, for example, if you're trying to do something in Excel and not sure how to pull it off, it'll give you the code for and tell you how to actually implement it. So this is an example of taking a field that has first name and last name in it and breaking that out into two separate cells with first name in one and last name in the other. And along these lines, ChatGPT is also writing code for programmers. And I was actually watching YouTube video last night. The guy's been a programmer for 20 plus years, and he's concerned that his job is in jeopardy because it's doing such a good job of writing code, and it knows code in many different programming languages.
I've heard a good quote recently, Ray, if you're talking about jobs, that folks are concerned that it will steal their jobs. Remember, this right now is a tool. It's not self-aware, so it's not doing its own creation. You have to tell it what you want it to do. So it's not that it's going to steal your job, but you need to be aware the person that knows how to use this could very well steal your job, because he's running the power tools and you might be just using a hammer and he's got an air gun. So, yeah.
Exactly. Another example of how we've used ChatGPT recently is to create social media posts for us. So you'll see the prompt there. How can you write a social media post for me? Well, of course. What's the topic of the social media post you'd like me to write? Please provide any details. And this was actually Hunter doing this. It says, oh, it'll be a Facebook post. I'm going to start with this link and then invite people to join us for the upcoming demonstration. So I'll pause here to say that most everything you received regarding this webinar today, we used ChatGPT to create it. So it wrote the email, the invitation, the description, and all that. We used it to promote itself. I guess that's the best way to say it. So yeah, we used the writing tool here to create this. So you'll see here it produced this Facebook post for us. Use it again to do a LinkedIn post. Same kind of deal. It's formatted more for LinkedIn. It even included the hashtags here, if you see at the end. Pretty impressive.
So you're saying that Hunter's job as marketing manager could be in jeopardy from ChatGPT.
It's making his job much easier.
It is.
Oh, and that's something we'll talk about in a moment too. And then, help writing emails, like we mentioned before. And I'll admit I've used this a few times recently to write an email, especially it's towards the end of the day, and you need to send someone an email, and your creativeness has just kind of fizzled out for the day. I hopped on ChatGPT and said, "Hey, can you create an email for me? Here are the main points." And it creates beautiful, well-written emails, and most of the time I only have to maybe change a sentence or two, and it's good to go. So here's another example to promote the webinar, the email that it wrote for us. And this was pretty neat. We Hunter asked it for ideas about subject lines, because that's one of the key. You have the most well-written email in the world, but if the subject line doesn't compel people to open it, then they're never going to see it. So it actually gave us many ideas for the subject line, because it already knew, it wrote the email, so it already has the context there to do the subject line. So if you see down at the bottom of the screen, there are a few examples. And then something a little different, because it does have personal uses too. Hunter got a Blackstone griddle, if you know what those are. So he asked it, "Hey, can you give me some good recipes I can use for supper?" And it already knew what a Blackstone grill is, and it spit out these recipe ideas. And I just want to pause for a moment and I guess describe the knowledge base of ChatGPT. So it essentially read the internet and every book ever published up to 2021. So it is not to the point yet where it will run out on the internet and get current, like today's news and that sort of thing. So it's through 2021, but Blackstone grills were around in 2021, so therefore it knew what it was all about. So Hunter liked the recipe he saw here, and he says, "Hey, can you find a video to help me with recipe number 2? That sounds good. I'd like to make that." Certainly. Says, "Here's the link," and it gives you a description and says, "Enjoy making the dish." So some other incredible things that ChatGPT has done lately. It has passed U.S. medical licensing exams. It has passed U.S. law exams. It passed the Wharton MBA business exam. That's the MBA exam with a grade of a B. I thought that was funny. I'm not sure why I didn't make an A, but we've had it write songs. There's a lot of rap artists now that are using it to create raps. It does a pretty phenomenal job of those as well. Here's one that's caused much of the concern out there is it will write essays and assignments for students. So I've played around with this. You can ask it, "Hey, write me a 500-word essay on Abraham Lincoln," and it will do. You can even tell it, "Hey, write it at a 9th grade level or a 12th grade level or a master's degree level," and it'll write. It'll change its style based on the level that you're giving it. So as you can imagine, there are a lot of teachers and college professors that are very concerned that the students aren't doing their own work, and they're already talking about, which we mentioned before, creating AI to detect output from other AI. Here's something that the CEO of OpenAI tweeted recently about ChatGPT. He says it's incredibly limited, but good enough at some things to create a misleading impression of greatness. It's a mistake to be relying on it for anything important right now. It's a review of progress. We have a lot of work to do on robustness and truthfulness. I think he's being a bit modest, personally, but I understand why he would say that. He doesn't. He's kind of a covering himself in that statement. Something else I found at Gartner, they're predicting by the year 2025, they expect more than 30% of all new drugs and materials to be systematically discovered using this generative AI technology. So imagine 2025, you're getting a prescription that was actually developed by AI. That's mind blowing. Mike, anything you want to add to that?
I read something the other day that I thought was really fascinating. We are a little ways away from this, but it is something to think about. Obviously, it's pulling from a database right now that it's searched the internet, like you said, read all the books. I mean, it's basically the smartest collection of information that we have. But imagine when it gets plugged into your business. I was thinking about this the other day, that what if you plugged it into your email and it has read all of the emails you have sent for the last 10 years with its generative ability. It will know what you're thinking, basically, be able to write exactly like you do in the same manner, everything. No one would ever be able to tell that the AI was responding to your emails if you used it in that way. Things like that just are mind-blowing to me, that we get to see this kind of thing. It's scary as it can be in one regard, but from a virtual assistant type of viewpoint, it's pretty amazing that we have this potential out there. So that's just where my mind went when you were going through this.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see that day. So
Very soon.
we should all invest in Top Golf, because everyone's going to be out of the office playing golf now and letting the AI just sit there and respond to emails all day. So some other generative AI endeavors that are happening right now, and billions are being invested in these projects. Marketing and sales copy, and here's all the companies involved in that. That's part of what we just showed you here a moment ago. Code generation, like I mentioned, it can write programs, general writing and content editing, image editing, which we're going to look at here in just a moment, and even creating music or other examples. So a lot going on in the world of AI, and it's gonna touch our lives, whether we like it or not, in many different ways. So let's move on to DALL-E. So if you are at that OpenAI website, DALL-E is another one of their big applications. So this is the image creation application using AI to generate images. So I'll give you, this is a real example we used recently. Hunter wanted an image to go in a mailer we were doing. So he asked it to create a new character that was an almond, kind of based on the Planters Peanuts guy, but an almond with a character made out of him. So you can see where the request was submitted. This is what it generated, was this happy almond, but he's missing part of his hand and most of his feet. So upon asking for, I think the deal was you took that image and uploaded it and said, hey, can you build this out completely to show all of it? So you'll see this is what was uploaded on the left, and it finished making it over here on the right. And that image was actually used on a mailer that we're doing. So what are graphic designers doing right now? I can only imagine. Wanted to share with you some.
Imagine how much more efficient this makes them. If they had to create that from scratch, I am not an artist, but I know when we've requested images like this from artists, it takes days sometimes to get something like this back. He did it in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
So if a real artist took something like this and used it as a starter, then it could just speed up their production time tremendously.
Yeah. And another point here is usually if an artist is commissioned to create something, it usually has a licensing agreement with it. So you'd pay more if you were going to put it in a national publication versus if you're mailing it out locally. With this, at the moment, we've got unlimited license. It's our image. No one else has any rights to it. So that's definitely going to impact some things. So here's some other examples of images that DALL-E has created. So if you look at the dog on the left, this is not a photo of an actual dog. It is an AI generated image based on what the AI has collected and learned about what dogs look like. I can't look at it and tell it's not a photograph. It's just amazing. The sandwich on the right is not a picture of an actual sandwich. It is an AI generated picture of a sandwich. And you can look at the bottom and it says, ask it for an Instagram worthy shot of a delicious looking bacon sandwich. So that's what it output. And there are tons of these photos. We could sit here for an hour just looking at photos that are amazing using the DALL-E app, which again is at openai.com. All right, so the usual response here is amazement and then maybe panic. People are often amazed and terrified. So again, we're at the leading edge of this stuff right now. So there's so much more to come as this technology evolves. But I want to just talk real quick about the implications of AI now as we have what we can see coming. So the education one, obviously kids are using this to do their schoolwork, and teachers are trying to rethink the way they're testing and doing assignments. They may have to go back to oral exams and in-person exams to make sure you're not using something like ChatGPT or using the tool to detect something that was created by ChatGPT. So I'm sure there's some pros to that, but and then jobs, and Mike and I were talking about this earlier. Will it cost some people jobs? Possibly at a let's just say you're a basic copywriter. You might want to up your skills. But it's also creating jobs. So one of the jobs it's going to create is, and Mike alluded to this earlier, if you are good at communicating with AI and asking it for things, you're going to be in higher demand, because I can give it a simple 2-word request and get totally different output than if I were very descriptive and more detailed in the way I ask it for something. So it will still be important to have a mastery of the English language, because you're going to have to use that to communicate with AI to get the output you need. Mike, you want to chime in on how you see implications to business and people with this?
Well, we're going to see some examples here in just a moment, because we're going to, if time allows, we're going to do some live demos. So I don't want to steal time away from that, showing the live demo, because it's pretty darn impressive, and I think it'll give folks ideas.
Sure.
Right there, because there's so many things you can use this for.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we're at the end now, and you guys want to dive into a couple of questions, or Hunter, did we have any questions?
Yes, we certainly do have some questions. Absolutely. And they've been coming in, so it's been very good. And we like the feedback, like it being interactive, you guys. So if you've got more, feel free to throw them into the Q&A. But we've got one, this one may throw you for a loop, but one was asked, how can you mitigate risk of ChatGPT for using suspicious codes against like a firewall system? It's a new challenge on cybersecurity, is it can kind of learn and possibly alter code, that sort of thing. Can you speak to that at all?
That's an interesting question. I know that it can analyze the configuration of firewalls, and we actually have used it here. If you get something like a Cisco firewall that's got a long hundreds of lines of code, and you want to know a summary, or you're looking for something in particular, it can analyze it for you. I haven't seen it be used in a malicious way, and a lot of things right now have controls on it, at least in ChatGPT. If you try to ask it to give you any kind of output that is immoral, illegal, criminal, anything like that. Now, of course, who defines what those are in the AI world? But it will tend to reject it and not give you information. It'll tell you that I'm not allowed to do that, or it's against the rules, something to that effect. Obviously, that can still can ultimately be abused. I'm sure the criminals can get around anything. That's just a given. So I'm not sure how that's going to be implemented later. What we could do now, and this is something that's definitely being done, is you can take that same firewall code, run it through ChatGPT, and say, where are my vulnerabilities? What did I miss? And that's important. That way it can give you a second set of eyes to look at it and say, oh yeah, you might want to close this port because you just left a vulnerability open for a hacker. That's something that if one person is trying to scan hundreds of lines of code, they're very likely to miss. And so it can be a great second set of eyes. I don't know if that fully answers the question, but hopefully it helped.
Yeah. This stuff is all, it's relatively new. So, we're just scratching the surface, tip of the iceberg here. So, I mean, new information about what it can do, its capabilities and learning continues to come out. So the possibilities are endless of what it's capable of. And we'll probably be doing another follow-up or as things develop to show more elaborate things of what it can do.
Yeah. And don't think when we say proofread things like firewall code, yeah, that's very technical, but you can also upload your resume. You can upload whatever you want and say, please proofread this for me, find errors or make it more succinct, make it more detailed, whatever it is. This is so flexible. It's not just a highly technical tool. Think of it, and I know we've said it before, but it's important to keep thinking about it this way, is think of it as the smartest person you ever known that has read every book and knows everything that's going on, especially when they open it up to the current internet. And what would you ask them? Would you have them proofread your work? Would you have them answer this question, so forth? Now, obviously, everything needs to be considered. Don't treat it as gospel when whatever it spits out. It is a computer. It needs to be verified, but it puts you on the right track, at least. So,
yeah. One other question here real quick, and then we're going to jump into a live demo. I've got it up on my screen over here for you just to see what it's like using it, if you haven't done that before. But one question is, like, if you're browsing Google or Bing and say you start asking it questions about, or bring up the example that I gave of asking a recipe for Blackstone grills and recipes you can do. Will Google or the other search engines pick up on what you put in there and it start seeing ads for that information?
Yeah, that's here now. Absolutely.
yeah.
And they're just I was read a couple days ago, these major search engines are going to be incorporating more and more AI as we go along. So I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I have experiences where I feel like the thing read my mind already when I'm sitting, I start to search for something and I'm like, how did it know I was going to look for that? It is already using some form of predictive software already, but it's just going to advance.
Yeah. All right. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen here because I think this is what y'all showed up for, right? The interactive demo. This is the fun stuff.
There was one quick question I thought I'd answer, Hunter. You answered in the chat,
Sure.
but it doesn't hurt to verbalize it, is folks were asking, what is the price of ChatGPT? Right now, everything you've seen can be done free. Everything that we showed you is free. Now, it has limited access because of the volume of requests coming in, and it can be a little slower. But if you get ChatGPT Plus, which is what you see on the screen here, it's a whole $20 a month, and you get unlimited use. As I understand it right now, it's unlimited use, and you get priority login. So that way you don't have to wait your turn. So if you want to play with it, do it for free. Absolutely. You might have to try to log in multiple times before you get in, but it is free. And if you decide it is a valuable tool, $20 is quite a value. So
Yeah. Yeah, often, sometimes it will say at capacity, and regardless, pretty much the only thing you get for paid is just access to it, even if it's at capacity for the free users. All the responses generated, it'll still generate responses and act the same and respond the same. That's the main benefit you really get out of it. So if you start using it for business and start relying on it, multiple times a week, that sort of thing, it may make sense to save you a bunch of time. That's the biggest thing. And we had a comment, let's do as our first thing for an example. We had a comment that someone said, believe it or not, on Valentine's Day, 30% of men if they wrote a love letter or a poem to their significant other, it was done through AI. And I kind of would like to show that as an example. I know it's not business, but it does heart the creativity of the program.
You
So-
should have told the ladies to plug their ears, Hunter.
I know.
before.
I'm gonna ruin things for them.
Now, all us guys are ruined now. So,
I know. Well, yes. You see behind the curtain, we're not all that creative. It's just the thought that counts. That's what I wanted to emphasize there. I'm going to stop it generating there, but it'll do a whole poem for us, and with a rhyming scheme, and implement, like Rafe said earlier, anything crazy out of the ordinary, like a pink octopus with 8 arms riding a train. It can make that objects that don't rhyme or go together go in a poem or a story that's fully thought out and rhymes. It's very, very impressive on the creating part of it. Now, yeah, so my Valentine's Day just got ruined if my girlfriend finds out about this, but we won't tell her about that. But for more of a practical use case, because we are on here for doing it for business, something we have talked about recently is something where employees or staff get rewarded for how long they're with us. It's actually a struggle in our industry. It's one of the things that makes us different is our employees stay for a long time, and we want to reward them of some sort, but we don't know what to do with them. What does that plan look like? So what I've done here is put in a prompt. I'm trying to figure out a longevity bonus for our employees. 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. You probably have something similar at your office, but give us some ideas, because we don't even know where to start, where to begin. And it's being a little wonky here. Isn't that wonderful? It's not perfect, you guys. It's still pretty new. Let's see. All right, there it goes. So, and it thinks faster than humans. Like, I cannot think this fast or create an outline this quickly or scour the web this quickly, for a matter of fact. And it spits out ideas and starting points that you probably may not have followed. Everybody's brain acts a little differently, right? All right, I'm going to stop.
I'm liking these perks here.
Now, Rafe saw paid vacation to an international destination, so we're going to stop that there.
only 10 more years, right? 10 more years.
And so again, it's like a conversation. You can bounce around on topics. You don't have to stay with the same theme. So one thing that Mike likes to do is, before he reads books, is kind of look at the summary, see what a book is about, or if it's been a long time since he's read a book, go back and revisit. So here we're asking ChatGPT to summarize the Rockefeller habits, and what are they? And it's like what Mike said. It's as if it's a human that has read and knows almost everything that exists, at least up to the end of 2021.
And just to prove real quick, Hunter, I know we're out of time, but type in, what are the chapters of this book? It knows what you asked it previously. So I just wanted, well, I think it'll do it. Yeah, it does it. Okay. I was hoping it would do it live, because I blindsided you with that. But you can see it knows exactly what you're asking. It's not like Google, where it's sending you to a link. It's answering just like a person would. So that's amazing. And then you could even say, expand on chapter 7, and it'll give you a complete summary of that chapter. So
it will. It's very, very powerful. It's crazy how much it knows and how well it responds, as if you're just talking to a friend. You're talking to one of us, right back and forth. And someone asked earlier in the chat for ChatGPT specifically, which is what we're demoing right now. It is a text-only input. So I can't upload a photo to this. It doesn't work. That's what DALL-E is. So it's in the name, ChatGPT just is only text. Whatever we type in is how it will interact with us. It probably won't be long, and they'll sync the two programs together so they can work hand in hand. But for now, this one is just chat. So some other ideas that we had, I know we are running short on time here, but we're going to do two quick ones.
Yep. You got to do the peanut butter sandwich one, Hunter.
I'll do the peanut butter sandwich one last. Okay, I'll do it. So let's see. You guys may see this here soon, but we talked about the use of ChatGPT in helping us promote the webinar and get you guys to come as far as the messaging. So I'm going to show behind the curtain a little bit is a thank you email for you guys attending, right? This is showing a practical use case because I haven't started thinking about it. And it will write the email for you. Now, this is the first time putting in this prompt, but it writes it very, very quickly, and the grammar is very good, as Rafe showed, and it's done. This task would have taken you 20 minutes. It does in about 10 seconds. So if anything, it's a major time saver. And that's kind of what we're hoping to demonstrate a little bit today. Rafe wants to really, really do the peanut butter example. So, all right, we're going to end this on a fun one, you guys, as y'all stuck with us to the end. And we have run over a little bit, and our apologies for that, but hopefully it has been worth it. Rafe has got the wildest prompt. I have a peanut butter sandwich stuck in my VCR. I need instructions on how to remove it, but written in the style of Monty Python. So you can ask it to write in different tones, make it friendly, conversational. Rafe said Monty Python, for those of you who know what that is, on the quest for the Holy Grail, and it will change its response based on what you put. And it actually changes the response pretty much every time. So this is a different reply than we got yesterday with the exact same prompt. So it is uniquely replying. This is more like a script.
It's like a movie script. Yesterday it just wrote a paragraph. It's doing a screenplay. That's amazing.
This is different than what we got yesterday. That's for sure. It's still is
it running all the way? Is it still running?
I know. I stopped it because it was going to continue going.
I'm curious how it ended.
It was never going to stop. That was going to be a 30-minute screenplay there on a VCR and peanut butter sandwiches.
But notice how the language it's using, just like those guys would talk. And I asked it to do something like this written in the style of the King James Bible, and it wouldn't do it because it told me that it could potentially offend Christians. So there's some built-in, like Mike mentioned earlier, some built-in stops on certain things. But I thought, well, who else talks that way? And I thought, oh, Monty Python's Quest for the Holy Grail, that's how they talk. So I got what I needed out of it. I just had to ask it a different way. And that goes back to the point earlier. The people that are good at asking AI for things and understand how to, it's not going to, let's figure out a different way to ask it for the same thing, more or less. So there'll be a skill developed there in terms of getting what you need out of AI. So.
For sure. And this is actually one of the cases that comes up often is so I stopped this response, but I'm going to ask it to continue it because I stopped it mid thought, and it will continue going just right off the bat. And in the instance where we showed that milestone 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year thing, if for whatever reason it stops where you think it should continue, just tell it to continue. It's like a person. They stop mid-sentence and you were saying and they resume. It's the same here. And it will keep going and just pick up right where it left off.
Guys, I know we are way over time. I hope everybody has had as much fun on this as we did putting it together for you and improvising and doing this live demo. We're going to continue to bring these kind of things to you. So keep on the lookout for future emails. If you need to, and you have other questions, please let us know. And we are going to be sending you a copy of this recording. Hate to cut it off because I could sit here and do this all day long. This is what we love and what we do. So,
hey,
yes,
that real fast there. Somebody commented, which I think is great. If you do it on your cell phone, it can be voice activated to help you quickly enter in prompts. So you can just talk to it, which is very helpful. That helps with the speed a little bit. And then they asked, are we doing more demos like this? That was a question.
I want to make a real quick point. If you're going to use it on your phone, just go use your phone's browser. If you go into the App Store, I know there are a lot of ChatGPT apps, and they're really just a shell for what we've shown you already. So the browser does adapt to your phone. So don't go pay for a ChatGPT app in the App Store. You don't need it. So just use your native browser and browse there.
Correct.
Yeah, and to answer the question, Hunter, yes, we are going to be doing demos of all types of new technology. That one of our goals for 2023 is to keep bringing more value to all of you guys out there. We appreciate you and thank you for being clients. If you're not a client yet, well, now's your chance. But please attend, watch out for our emails, and we'll let you know when more cool stuff comes around. So you guys have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys.